Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhaṃ Dhammaṃ Sanghaṃ Namasami. So for the past couple months, the readings have been coming from Buddha Dhamma, the chapter on happiness, and yesterday was the last reading, and Ajahn Pasanno asked if I'd be willing to give a reflection this morning as a kind of a wrap-up or a summary or a perspective on that topic. And there's, of course, as one, we've been listening for 2 months, and there's all sorts of angles and perspectives and details and information and whatnot, and Prabhupada can be, he's incredibly thorough, so it can be a bit tedious and or ponderous in the way that he goes over things. But I think it's important to be reflecting in terms of what is necessary to glean from this, what's helpful for practice, what's helpful for training, and I think one of the things in the way that Prabhupada approached it, makes it, how important the foundation is of just fundamental qualities of a good person. Those are the kind of doorways into happiness and well-being, and maybe also it might be good to reflect on, what are we even thinking about when we talk about happiness, or when Prabhupada talks about happiness, or when the Buddha talks about happiness. What does that mean in comparison to what we think? Or conceive of, or conjecture, or proliferate about. What are we measuring things by? I think of in terms of happiness, maybe the sense of well-being or firmness or clarity that comes with the Dhamma, with having that foundation and grounding and rooting in Dhamma. So, when I think of the practitioners and people that I know who are good examples of Dhamma practice, maybe the first thing that comes to mind isn't happiness by the way we tend to define it or think about it from a Western perspective, because it's sort of, and especially American. So happy. Everybody's smiling. Everybody, and you see all the the advertisements and just when Americans they're almost pathologically happy, or try to be, try to present themselves as happy, at least to sort of, and it's really irritating for a lot of other nationalities. Because there's all this smiling and gregarious and some, can we just dial it back a bit, and it so there's this sort of perception of what we think it should be, and there's one of the reasons when the very first book, Seeing the Way, was done in, I think it was the 1980s, late 1980s, and it was a collection of teachings from the senior Western disciples of Ajahn Chah, and it's all short excerpts of teachings, and there, especially in those days, there were a lot of Americans, and there are others as well. But all of the pictures that way, they had everybody smiling, and I was so I when I submitted a sort of like a grumpy picture. just to be contrary, and but there is this, again, this sense of I have to be happy, but I think of some of the people who are really deeply happy. You wouldn't even say, like Lumpur Liam is somebody who's really deeply happy, from a Dhamma sense, really fulfilled in Dhamma. But you wouldn't, without getting to know him, you wouldn't recognize that, because of his kind of demeanor and his kind of. He's not an outgoing person, but yeah, there's this tremendous fulfillment and well-being that he embodies, and maybe things like just lack of the kind of stability, steadiness, clarity, ease of negotiating the human condition. That's a real happiness. And it's like I was just talking with Ajahn Nyanadhammo Nyaniko just before the meeting, and saying that he just got word that say like Lumpur Liam was scheduled to go to Brazil to the new monastery there to visit and teach and support, and it's like in a couple of weeks, and Ajahn Mudita was concerned of the fears of the coronavirus and kind of different and of course for in our own experience, Ajahn Dan has been postponed his visit through the request of the lay community, and so Ajahn Mudita contacted Lumpur Liam, and Lumpur Liam was just, there's no danger. Of course I'm going. So what? Of course, I'm going to visit you. And so there's that kind of ease, unshakability, and also giving. I mean, I think that sense of there's a happiness that comes from giving and sharing and being as a human being available for each other as human beings, and that's a tremendous source of happiness, and that's grounded in Dhamma, as we are grounded, rooted, stable in Dhamma. Those aspects of kindness and compassion are quite ordinary, and those are tremendous roots of happiness and well-being. Just having the commitment to precepts and sila, like that virtue and integrity. And it's something that we tend to overlook. One, because it seems so ordinary. I mean, especially for all of us who have a commitment to practice and to training, and to especially for those who've taken on a monastic training. The level of commitment to virtue and integrity is incredibly high, and if it's not recollected or reflected on or seen in its true light, it can either be ignored, or you can you can get really tangled up and kind of worried and fearful around our commitment to Vinaya, a commitment to virtue, when in reality, just our day-to-day life is just so clear and committed and has just tremendous integrity, and it's a real source of happiness in its a broad and true sense, in the sense of kind of an unshakability and ease of negotiating the human condition. As it's on a certain level, there's a simplicity to our directness to our, say, living in a monastery, because everything's pretty well spelled out. But that makes it even more important to reflect on the benefits of that, so that one does experience the happiness that comes from keeping that integrity. Because in the world, it's the challenges and choices and complications that inevitably face one can be really confusing and frustrating or complicating, and that creates entanglements in one's well-being, and we're fortunate to have that clarity of keeping a standard of conduct and behavior and communal responsibility, and that is really worthy of well-being, worthy of happiness. So it's just that sometimes it takes a recollection to be able to solidify that. And also just things like oftentimes I've been asked, especially in monastic communities, but with others, persons who are really sincere in practice, and what do I need to develop in order to, what are really important qualities for cultivation of meditation and growth in the Buddha's path towards wisdom and liberation, and one of the things I inevitably always emphasize is contentment and gratitude. I mean, those are because oftentimes we think, what special technique of meditation do I have to master? What kind of knowledge of the teachings and the Abhidhamma and some special transmission of the teaching and so, and really it's the base, the foundation for everything to grow from, and particularly in terms of happiness, contentment and gratitude, that ability to one is to recognize discontent, because it can be rationalized so easily. One can be discontented and with oneself, with the world, with the people around one. It's easy to drift towards discontent, and to be able to directing our effort to the qualities that allow contentment to settle, that ease of not requiring, not demanding things to fit into our desire system or our system of ideals and ideas of what we think is right, what we think is necessary, and the ability to be content, and there's a happiness that comes from contentment, and that doesn't mean one doesn't experience sort of the mind flopping around and whatnot, but it's sort of just that recognizing the value of contentment and allowing the heart to return, and recognizing that on a certain level, whatever we're experiencing or whatever we have, it's enough in terms of whether it's our intelligence or our health or our conditions that we're experiencing, or the things that are happening. It's enough to be with the way things are, and to not be shaken, not be derailed because of discontent, that sense of contentment, and that ease of heart that comes from contentment. And it's like this, and it may not be absolutely ideal, may not be what you actually like or prefer, but you can be content with it, you can work with it, you can develop wisdom from it, you can develop understanding, you can recognize the human condition within that, and have the directing of attention to the path that the Buddha gives of sila, samadhi, panya. That is the way out of dukkha, the sense of gratitude, and it's not sort of like sort of somebody in the the back of your mind, wagging your finger. You should be grateful. Yes. But it's more. But it's more like that recognition that we rely on. We're not separate. We're not separated. We rely on others for so much. Human knowledge and progress is based on the efforts of other people, and we get to reap the fruits of it, or especially for us as interested in Buddhism. I mean, we have the Buddha who paved the way. I mean, even 2,500 years ago, his clarity and his ability to see the truth and pass it on to others is unparalleled, and it's just worthy of gratitude. And then there's a whole 2,500 years of monastics and lay communities keeping this lineage, this tradition, vibrant and alive, and we reap the fruits of that, and it's worthy of tremendous gratitude. And is it perfect? No, I mean, nothing's perfect, but is it enough for liberation? Is it enough for freedom? Absolutely. And then just on a very material level, especially as monastics, every single thing that we like. I mean, we're sitting here waiting for the meal, and stomachs are empty, everybody's hungry, but and it's easy to forget and take it for granted. Each morsel of food is given to us. It's given freely. It's given as an offering, and it's really worthy of gratitude. Every single thing that we touch. And the robes that we're wearing, the sitting cloth, the microphone, the hall that we're in, every single thing has been given to us, and it's amazing. And it's really worthy of gratitude. And part of there's in Pali. The word for, like gratitude is katanyu and kataweti. There's two elements to that. So one is the recognition of the sense of being a recipient of others' goodness and generosity, and then kataweti is that wish to reciprocate in some way, and that that's especially as monastics, it's really it's set up so that we can't really reciprocate materially, but we can reciprocate through our own commitment to the precepts, to training, to living a monastic life skillfully, cultivation of the Buddha's teachings, cultivation of the practice, trying to fulfill the teachings, and then to share with others to make available these teachings and this practice. And it can be done in smaller and larger ways, but it's that recognition of reciprocation and a giving back, and say like there's just things of paying attention to the neatness and tidiness of the monastery. I mean, people show up here and they might not even see a monastic, but they know something's happening here. They know something good is happening here. Or like, as yesterday, Ajahn Pasanno forwarded me the response from the contractors who did the driveway to the up to my kuti, and it was the sweetest response. Just really, he's a asphalt and concrete guy, isn't it? He's not some kind of middle-class Bay Area sort of intellectual. But something touches him, and it was really, it was just really, it was quite moving actually to see what he, his response. And because we were starting to wonder if he was ever going to send a bill, because it hadn't shown up, and then it actually did, and so then Ajahn Pasanno wrote, so I said, yeah, we were just wondering if I was getting ready to email you anyway. So. And then because we weren't seeing a bill showing up, and then so he responded. It was quite sort of chatty for him, actually. It was quite nice, very sweet, just expressing his delight in being able to come and help us. So these different, smaller, greater ways, bigger ways. I mean, it doesn't have to be sort of dazzling. It's sort of, but that katanyu and kataweti, and English, it's hard to, because even gratitude, it has that kind of finger nagging sort of thing behind it. But reflecting on the meaning, and it really is a source of well-being, of happiness. When we experience things through the light of, say, like contentment and gratitude, and whether it's our day-to-day life, whether it's our meditation, because we can, obsess with, our meditation, breathing in, breathing out, trying to get the perfect mindfulness on the in-breath and the out-breath, and trying to get everything absolutely right, and we forget to be grateful to the fact that we're even breathing. It's not a given that you're just getting up in the morning and waking up. So okay, another day. Wow, that's great. That's not a small thing. So that there's these aspects of you don't have to take it to some philosophical pinnacle of refinement, but it doesn't exclude that. As we lay those foundations for say, like for happiness and well-being, in these fundamental ways, these foundational ways. It's not a leap to understand say, anicca, dukkha, anatta. It's not a leap to penetrate emptiness. It's not a leap to really recognize how letting go and relinquishment really works. Because the foundation is there. So that these, I think, these teachings and the readings that we received. I mean, there were, as I said, it was a lot of information. It was a lot of detail, and but to sift through it and try to bring to mind the things that are helpful in what it is that helps ourselves to practice with in order to have that sense of well-being and ease in this human condition. Because in reality, it's not that long, and all of us are going to be dead. It's just, that's the reality. I mean, it's like 50 years. 50 years is like nothing. 50 years, I was already kind of a young man at university trying to figure out what to do. And all of a sudden, here I am. Another 50 years, there isn't, there might be a couple of you around, but yeah, absolutely, the most of us are, already can be dead. And so that time is not, time passes, but the Dhamma is timeless. Qualities of truth and the way things truly are is timeless. So to be able to plug into that and cultivate one's well-being and ease. To offer that for reflection as well. Sadhu, 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 anumodami.
I was thinking, when you were saying that, I was thinking, even the land, like even the plants. Like,
oh yeah.
Any plant we touch here.
Absolutely everything. Absolutely everything. It's so important to, take things. Because it's so easy to take things for granted, and when you take things for granted, then you end up being discontent because it's never good enough.